State's next witness.
Yes, sir. Shawn Atkins.
Shawn Atkins, please. Mr. Atkins, if you'll come right here before the clerk and do as best you can, raise your right hand for her to administer the oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Atkins, if you come right around this way, the bailiff will help you into the witness chair. Whoops. And if you can, just scoot up as close as you can to that microphone. Just speak loudly into the microphone so everybody can hear you, all right?
All right.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Corey, you're right
Yes,
ahead.
Your Honor. State and spell your name for the record.
Shawn Lee Atkins, ShawnLeeAtkins.
Are you currently incarcerated in the Florida State Prison?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell these jurors the circumstances of your incarceration.
On March and April of 2013, not only did I steal gold from a family member of mine and sold it, I also broke into a house of a lady friend of my grandmother's, sold gold from there too.
Tell them why you did that.
I was homeless. I had trying to get to Illinois to a place where I could live, have a house, and get a job.
Did you admit to those crimes?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And did you get convicted as a felon of those crimes?
Unfortunately, yes.
By whose office were you prosecuted?
Clay County in your office.
How many felonies did you plead to?
25.
Were they all connected to those same instances that you just described to the jury?
Yes, ma'am.
Were they different counts but all involving the same instances?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And were you sentenced by a Clay County judge?
Yes, ma'am.
To what term of prison?
7 years.
All right. All of this occurred after November of 2012. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Prior to your incarceration, or I guess we'll go with the arrest. When were you first arrested for the crimes that led to your incarceration?
May 4th, 2013.
Okay. Prior to that time, where were you living?
At my grandmother's house.
Where is
and
that
then
located? Not a specific address, just a county.
Orange Park, Clay County.
Okay. And did you ever live part of the time in Duval County?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me take your attention back to November of 2012. Did you have an occupation at that time?
No, ma'am.
Were you earning any money whatsoever at that time?
No, ma'am.
Did you have a girlfriend at that time?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Was she a serious girlfriend?
Yes.
Did she have any employment towards the end of November of 2012?
Yes, she just got a job a couple days prior.
Did she have a place to live?
No, ma'am.
On that Thanksgiving weekend of November 2012, where were you and your girlfriend living?
In my 88 Dodge Dakota out on the streets of Orange Park, Jacksonville.
You were literally living in your car,
Yes, ma'am.
and she was living in your car with you?
Yes, ma'am.
How would you bathe?
I had friends that would help us out with bathing if it really came down to it. I went to a bathroom at a gas station or a store and washed in a sink.
All right. What was your girlfriend's name?
Lauren Alderman,
Have you seen her since your incarceration?
one time in June, but not since.
Okay. Let me take your attention to the Friday evening after Thanksgiving, which was November 23rd of 2012, around 7 o'clock that evening. Do you recall that evening?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recall events that occurred at a gas station near where you were living out of your car?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Let's go back to the 7 o'clock hour. Where were you and your girlfriend specifically parked in your vehicle?
Before we went to the gate, we were parked at the Winn-Dixie on the right-hand side of it, and she had to use the restroom, so we went to the gate, and then we parked in the farthest left spot.
Okay. Hold on just a little bit, because I do
Yes,
want to
ma'am.
clarify a couple of things for the jury. What would you, 7 till about 7:30, what were you and Miss Alderman doing?
Listening to music on the radio, talking, reading books. That's about it.
Okay. We're going to show you a photograph marked into evidence as State's Exhibit 3. And while this does not depict the Winn-Dixie, can you show them the general area of where you were that evening?
Did I touch a screen?
Yes, please touch the screen.
That way,
That way, a little more.
Yeah, just a little bit more.
What were the traffic conditions that evening at Southside and Bay Meadows? Was it heavy traffic?
It was Jacksonville traffic, not very heavy, not too heavy that late.
All right. And describe again the vehicle that you two were in.
A brown 88 Dodge Dakota with a one bench seat.
All right. And had you been familiar with that intersection prior to that night of kind of living at the Winn-Dixie?
Yes, ma'am. One time I lived close by there.
All right. Why did you leave the Winn-Dixie to go to the Gate gas station?
Lauren had to use the restroom.
What time approximately, if you can recall, did you pull out of the Winn-Dixie?
About 7:20, if that, maybe a little bit earlier.
And can you show the jurors on that photograph by drawing the route you took to go into the Gate gas station? When you entered, were there sufficient parking spaces available for you and Ms. Alderman to pull into?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at what end of the station did you pull in?
The left side.
From the driveway? When you turned, which way
Oh, I
did
took
you-
a right after getting in the driveway.
Okay, and then you pulled in immediately to your left?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me show you State's Exhibit 8 and ask you, sir, in relation to this photograph, this obviously was not what appeared when you pulled in, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But just show the jurors approximately where you pulled in and parked. All right. At that time, when you pulled in and parked, was there anyone other than you and Ms. Alderman in your car?
No, just me and Lauren.
And at the minute you pulled in, did you pull in frontwards?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, just normal? And was there anyone to your right in the parking space immediately to your right?
Not when anyone immediately to my right. No.
Okay. How about 2 parking spaces over?
No.
And then 3 parking spaces over from where you were?
Yes, ma'am.
What color car?
Red Durango.
All right. Did you notice that car when you pulled in?
Not immediately when I pulled in. No.
All right. Were your windows up or down?
Down.
And did Miss Alderman open her passenger door to get out?
Yes, ma'am.
When she opened her passenger door or through your windows, which were down, did you hear any unnecessarily loud music?
No, ma'am.
Would you have noticed loud music?
Honestly, no. I lived in the city so long, I just ignore it and drown it out.
All right. Did Miss Alderman close the door after she got out?
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't you go inside?
I was watching my truck, make sure no one stole any of our stuff out of it.
Your personal items were actually in your truck where you were living?
They were in the bed of my truck in a little, Starlight tote case.
All right. What were the weather conditions that you recall that evening?
Clear, a little humid.
How long do you think Miss Alderman was inside the Gate gas station?
5 minutes, a little bit more.
Could you see into the red Dodge Durango?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And could you hear anyone saying anything from the red Dodge Durango?
No, ma'am.
What were you doing yourself while you were waiting for Miss Alderman?
Just observing, I guess, is the easiest way to put it.
And while you were there waiting for Miss Alderman to come out of the Gate gas station, did you observe and hear something very unusual?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell these jurors what happened.
I heard 2 gunshots. Sounded like firecrackers going off to my right.
And is that what drew your attention to your right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if I am in your driver's spot right here, then you're saying you heard sounds to your right,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? And then approximately how far from where I am to where our bailiff is, where our police officer is, would you say you saw the red Dodge Durango? Tell us where in the courtroom that would have been if I'm you in your vehicle.
Probably 5-6 feet before her.
Okay, could you walk this way towards me? I would like for you to tell our officer when to stop when you think that's where.
Right about there.
Right about there. And did you notice any vehicle on the other side of the red Dodge Durango?
Not till it backed out.
Okay, so at this point, thank you so much, Sabrina. At this point, then, what did you see right there from here to there? Was there anything obstructing your view?
Just the Durango.
Okay, and how many shots did you hear?
I heard 2 before it backed out and sped off.
Before what backed out and sped?
The Durango.
Okay. when you say backed out and sped off, can you exactly describe the motion of the car? In other words, did it back straight out, or did it do a turn and then head out?
I believe it backed straight out. A little bit foggy on that one, but it backed straight out and drove off right behind me.
Okay, and when you say it drove off, did you notice which direction that vehicle traveled?
My left,
Okay. Are
toward
you
north.
familiar? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, I talked over you. Start over. Did you notice in which direction that vehicle traveled?
Northbound. They were trying to go to, it looked like they were going south side Boulevard.
But could you see it after that point?
No, ma'am. As soon as they left the parking lot, I lost view of it.
What drew your attention back over into the area where the Durango had just been? Were there more shots fired?
Yes, ma'am.
How many more?
About 4 to 5 more, maybe more than that.
And was the red Durango still there when that second set of shots was fired?
No, ma'am.
Was it driving?
Yeah, they were driving off.
Okay. Now, did you see who was shooting?
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to describe to this jury who was doing the shooting.
An older gentleman with white hair. And honestly, if I saw him on the streets, he looked like a businessman kind of thing. He was dressed nice, had a nice car and everything.
Okay. Did you see how he fired the gun?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Judge, may he stand up and demonstrate for the jury?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir, I realize you have shackles on. Are you able to do it from there? Okay, stay by the, that's all right, stay. They can't see you. I need you to come towards our bailiff. All right, and just show the jurors the stance you saw that person take.
Crouch down like that, shooting the gun.
How did you describe that stance?
A police stance.
Okay, you better get back on the microphone. Why did you describe that as a police stance?
It's like trying to either hide behind a door or get better aim.
All right, and after you saw the shooter in that position, what did you see him do?
He closed the door of his car, and his lady friend came out of the gate.
All right, hold on. How did you know it was his lady friend?
At first, I didn't know until she hopped in the car.
All right, you saw a lady hop in his car.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see where that lady had come from?
She came from the cash register.
Okay, and you were still watching all of this from your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that sidewalk that runs from the in front of your car, where the circle is on the photo, all the way to the front door of the gate, is that fairly well lit?
Yes, ma'am.
In fact, can you see the outdoor lighting in this photo?
Yes, ma'am, I
All
can.
right, and is that what allowed you to see from your car to that
Yes,
dark
ma'am.
vehicle? Were you sure that the person that was the driver of that car that the young lady got in, was that the same person who fired shots at the Durango?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And sir, did you hear the lady say anything to the driver?
I ain't hear her say anything, but the look on her face said enough.
All right. What did the look on her face say to you? Describe it.
Horror.
Horror?
Horror.
Okay. And did you hear the driver that you had seen shooting, could you hear him say anything to her?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, did you then, what happened then? I'm sorry, strike that. Did you ever get out of your car at that point?
No, ma'am.
Did you get out of your car immediately after you saw the young lady get into the dark car?
Not until they drove off.
All right. Did you watch them drive off?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do?
I turned around and got the license plate number.
What made you turn around and get that license plate number?
I don't know. I guess instinct. Something told me that's what I should do.
All right. And did you memorize that license plate number?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. How did the shooter drive off?
Fast. They drove off the same direction as the Durango. With a little bit of speed.
Okay. Did you stay in your car after you had memorized his license tag number?
For a second, just to make sure he drove off a little bit, and then I went up into the gate gas station.
All right. What did you do when you got inside the gate gas station?
I gave the first cashier I seen the license plate number.
Did she write it down or did you write it down?
I wrote it down for her.
I'm going to show you what's been marked into evidence in State's Exhibit 170, 170, And I'm going to ask you, sir, is this the brown bag that you were given to write the license plate number on?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that the license plate you actually wrote yourself on there?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you read that license plate to the jury?
Yes, ma'am. It's Florida 937 VMV.
What did you do with this brown paper bag after you wrote that in your own handwriting?
Handed it to the cashier.
All right. And Judge, may I publish to the jury?
Yes, ma'am.
And would you like me to show it or pass it?
Either, whatever you prefer.
And could you remind them they'll get all of these exhibits later?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the exhibits that you're seeing, the photographs and this exhibit here, and there'll be others, you will get copies of and be allowed to take back into the jury room with you to review during your deliberations.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, where was Miss Alderman at the time you were doing this and giving this piece of paper to the clerk?
Well, when I went in there, I thought she was in the bathroom. I guess while I was writing down the license plate number, she crept on past me, sort of. I didn't see her go by.
I'm sorry, I missed the last thing you said. We just took the photo down. Go ahead, repeat the last thing you said.
I said that when I was giving the license plate number to the lady, she must have walked on past me from the bathroom, because I went in there to go see if she was there to get her to go, and she was already in the truck.
She was in the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
To your knowledge, at that time, had she seen or heard anything?
She didn't see nothing.
Did you leave the gate and go get back into your truck?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Atkins, did you leave that gas station at that point?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you do that?
2 reasons. One, I was terrified. 2, I had absconded from my probation, my misdemeanor probation. I didn't really want to deal with the police.
All right. Tell the jurors what happened that made you return to that gas station.
She slapped me. It made me go back.
Who slapped you?
Lauren did.
Had you told her what you had seen,
Yes, ma'am. When we got on the south side,
and she made you go back up there?
she forced me to go back.
Did you want to go back up there, Mr. Atkins?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Did you know that by going back up there would be police officers there?
I was sure of it.
All right. And then, did you pull back into the parking lot?
Not immediately.
Tell the jurors why you couldn't pull back in at that time.
Police had it taped off so I couldn't go by. There was, according to the officer, a murder investigation. Or, well, at that time it was a shooting. That's what they called it.
All right. How long do you think you were gone from the time you got back into the car and pulled out with Miss Alderman to the time you returned to the gate gas station?
5 minutes, give or take.
And in that time, sir, did you tell anyone else besides Miss Alderman about what happened?
No.
Did you see any other police officers at the destination where you drove? Did you go back to the Winn-Dixie?
No, I didn't make it there.
Okay. You turned around and went back.
I turned right on the south, or left on the south side, and made a U-turn on Bay Meadows into the gate.
Okay. And did you then tell the police what you had witnessed?
No, I told them that I saw everything go down, but I didn't tell them the details of what I saw.
Right, but did they ask you to remain at the scene?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you remain at the scene,
Yes, ma'am, I did.
knowing that they could determine that you were on probation at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did Miss Alderman wait there with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you eventually go down to the Police Memorial Building in downtown Jacksonville?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you speak to the police and convey to them what you've conveyed here to this jury?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you ever shown that brown piece of paper again?
No, that's the first time I've seen it since that night.
And sir, did there come a time at your deposition when you talked to Mr. Guy about hopefully helping you out of this trouble you were in?
Yes, ma'am.
And why did you do that?
Got 7 years. That's a long time, and I'm young. It's
Okay.
you're only young once.
To your knowledge, while your charges were pending in Clay County, even though it's our office, do you know whether anyone, or did you or your lawyer ever directly contact us about your situation?
Overruled.
No, ma'am, we never.
Was there ever a part of your plea bargain on the record in Clay County that mentioned that you were a witness in this case?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever try to make contact with me or Miss Wolfson or Mr. Guy prior to the time you were brought back for a deposition?
No, ma'am.
And as you testify here today in front of the jury, are you expecting any special benefit from your testimony?
No, ma'am.
Tell these jurors why you went back to the gate gas station.
Sustained.
Tell them why you're testifying here in court today.
To do the right thing.
May I have just a moment with co-counsel?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Guy? That's all I have for Mr. Atkins.
Mr. Stroller, cross?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Atkins, just to stay on topic from that, at the time you got sentenced, did you know what your sentence would be?
Yes.
Okay. And when I took your deposition, Mr. Guy was there, I was there, correct?
Yes, sir.
And prior to you entering even in the room is when you approached Mr. Guy privately and asked for those benefits and favors, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you asked him for two based on your testimony in this case, isn't that true?
Yes, sir.
One was you wanted to stay in Jacksonville as long as possible, isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
You didn't want to go back to prison, did you?
No, sir.
The other one is you asked if you could get some of your sentencing reduction for you being a witness in this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Isn't it true that after your depo was over that day, you got to stay in Jacksonville for over a month before you were sent back to DOC?
I stayed for a month and a day, and then I was sent back to the OC.
Okay, so the answer to my question was yes. You
Yes, sir.
stayed for over a month, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you did receive a benefit that you asked for, is that fair?
I guess you can say that.
It just wasn't long enough for your liking?
It was fine enough for me, sir.
Now, you indicate that you heard two shots and then the red SUV backed out, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you said you believed it backed out straight, but you're foggy on that. That was your testimony, correct?
Yes, sir.
You also admit that you were homeless at the time when these crimes occurred that you're now in custody for, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me ask you this. On the evening that this happened, did you have any type of drugs or alcohol or synthetic marijuana in your system that night?
No, sir.
And you're saying you couldn't hear music or you just ignored it?
I couldn't hear it. It's a possibility that I just ignored it because, like I said, I lived in the city a few years. Just, you start to drown out those things.
Okay. But if something was playing music loud enough to make mirrors or vibrate and shake, have you been around cars that are on the street that do that?
Yeah, that was not happening.
Okay. And there's a difference. Would you agree there's a difference between loud music and then maybe
Ridiculous.
something- I'm sorry?
Ridiculous music.
Ridiculously loud?
Yeah, that was not happening.
Okay. And you've even been around it where it's so loud it may even hurt your ears. You think that's fair?
Yes, sir.
And if it was that loud that night, you'd be able to hear that ridiculously loud music?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Now, prior to any gunshots, were you looking over at the red SUV?
For a second, when the driver came out of the gate and hopped into the red SUV,
Okay, and you're talking about the gentleman with the dreadlocks, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. And how long was he in that red SUV before that first shot was fired?
Less than a minute, probably.
And again, you can't testify to what words were exchanged, right?
No, sir.
You can't testify to what actions happened on the other side of that Durango, correct?
No, sir.
And matter of fact, isn't it true you told the police that night that it actually looked like Mr. Dunn, who you now know as Mr. Dunn, was shooting in the ground as the SUV was leaving? Is that true?
I thought it was, but I really have no experience with a firearm.
Okay. And based on that lack of experience, I'm assuming, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, correct me if I'm wrong, that would have freaked you out being in that situation.
Oh, I was terrified.
And you were so terrified, you didn't even realize that your longtime serious girlfriend walked right by you inside the gas station, correct?
Not at all. Never saw her.
And afterwards, talking to her, when you came back, you realized she's in the car. She must have walked right by you.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not like you walked around the store, went into the bathroom, anything like that.
Well, when I got in there and I gave the lady at the desk the license plate number, I went into the, not gonna lie, I knocked down the girl's bathroom. I was terrified. I don't want to get Lauren out of there, and she wasn't in there.
Okay, so at that point, though, it's safe to assume you're at the front desk, right by the front door, and Lauren walked right by you.
Yeah, she went right by.
Now, were you there when the SUV pulled back?
I was still inside the store when it pulled back.
Okay. So as you're leaving, the SUV was already back, correct?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true that that SUV was in a different spot entirely from where it was when the shooting took place?
I can't recollect.
Okay. Is it possible that SUV was closer to your car when it came back than at the time of the shooting?
It's possible.
Okay. But you don't have a clear recollection, is that fair?
That's fair.
Now, that night you were taken to the homicide office, true?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, you actually saw 3 of the guys from that SUV, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
You were there when they actually took those 3 gentlemen and put them in different rooms, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that was the same room eventually they put you into, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that purpose of you going into that room is so that Ms. Wolfson could take your sworn statement. Isn't that true?
Yes, sir.
She administered you an oath just like the clerk did today, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were told that this was going to be videotaped and they were going to take your statement, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was after the other 3 gentlemen from the SUV had already given their statements and left. Is that correct?
I believe so. No, because when we got back to the desk and sat down, they left. They sat in another room until probably about 30 minutes before me and Lauren left.
Okay. So even when you were in the room and videotaped and recorded and sworn, when you came out, those guys were still there for a little bit?
Yes, sir.
And Miss Wolfson was present?
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize her today as the lady asking you questions that day on video?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was she also there talking to the other 3 gentlemen that were in the SUV?
I believe so.
Okay. And the homicide detectives were obviously there because you're at the homicide office, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall how long you were there?
From about 9 o'clock till 2 o'clock in the morning.
So you were there for about 6 hours.
Yeah, for a good minute.
Well, that's being a little facetious, correct?
Just a tiny bit.
Okay. Now, you indicated in that videotape statement that Mr. Dunn was actually leaning out of the car, correct?
He was crouched, but
Do you recall if you would have said leaning that night that they took your video?
I may have. I don't remember.
Okay. But sitting here today, it's a possibility you just don't recall.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know how long that red SUV was gone once it left after those couple of shots were fired?
2 minutes, maybe 2.5 minutes. Not very long at all.
Okay. And isn't it true the homicide detectives never asked you about that red SUV leaving the scene?
Oh, I don't remember that, sir.
Is it possible that they only asked you about Mr. Dunn shooting and never asked you about the red SUV leaving? Is that possible?
It's possible.
And that's just because you can't recall today.
Yes, sir.
Same thing with Miss Wolfson. Is it possible that she never even asked you about that red SUV leaving or any type of time frames?
It's possible.
Have they showed you that video to refresh your recollection prior to today?
No, sir.
Have they showed you any reports or any statements you gave to the police before coming here today?
When me and you did our deposition, I saw my statement I filled out, but I didn't see no police report.
Right, and they didn't show you the video.
No, sir.
And even as of today, when they brought you over from your correctional facility to testify, they've still never refreshed your recollection with either the video of your reports, correct?
Correct.
Judge, if I may just have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Atkins, you said when you returned to the parking lot, they wouldn't let you in. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you're talking about the gate parking lot. Isn't that true?
Yes, sir.
So are you familiar with that area? I know you were staying across the street over by the Winn-Dixie, but are you familiar with that plaza? I think Ms. Corey put a picture up that you were drawing on.
I'm very familiar with that area.
Okay. That plaza and parking lot was actually open where people could drive into that plaza, correct?
No, not from where I was going. The police stopped me as soon as I got to the turn off, the driveway.
Right, as you came up the driveway, you just couldn't pull into the gate parking lot.
No, I couldn't even pull into the parking lot.
All right, how did you get into the parking lot? You said you drove around and pulled in?
I drove, did a U-turn on the south side, came to the first right driveway, and the officer, he waved me down. He said, "You can't go." And I told him that I saw what happened. And then he asked me to pull up a little bit further onto the grass and sit there for a few minutes.
And that was right outside the gate gas station, correct?
Yes, sir.
So there's actually extra entrances into that plaza north, further north, correct?
Yes, sir.
You never even had to go down there, did you?
No.
So again, you have no idea if those were open and letting people into the plaza. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement.
Judge, I have nothing further. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Corey? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Atkins, did Ms. Wilson ever tell you what your testimony should be?
No, ma'am.
Did any member of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office ever tell you what your testimony should be?
No, ma'am.
Did you discuss anything about the actual facts of the case with anyone else at the gate gas station while you were there?
No.
And when you were at the police memorial building, did you get together with any of the young men in the red Dodge Durango and talk about what any of you should say?
I didn't talk to a soul. I was withdrawn.
Why were you withdrawn?
Scared.
Has anyone from my office told you what to testify to here in court today?
No, ma'am.
And sir, isn't it true that let me ask you a question. Do you recall the days of your deposition?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recall talking to Mr. Guy about, was there anything that could be done about the length of your sentence?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall being placed under oath in the deposition to talk to Mr. Strolla?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you hear Mr. Guy tell Mr. Strolla every word of conversation that the two of you had had about your request for leniency
Yes, very clearly.
in detail?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Mr. Strolla asked you whether or not you had been granted leniency by remaining in Duval County. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What is your understanding of what happens to your gain time in prison when you come back to Duval County?
Your Honor, I'm only going to object to speculation in terms of relevance as well, Your Honor. I don't think he's, if I may, Your Honor, approach.
All right. Would the court reporter, please? All right, the objection's overruled. Go ahead, Ms. Corey.
Mrs. Simpkins, do you mind reading back my specific question for Mr. Atkins?
What is your understanding of what happens to your gain time in prison when you come back to Duval County?
You don't get none. You lose it.
You lose that benefit in prison from staying here. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, it's true.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
May he be excused?
He may.
Mr. Stroller?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. You're excused.